no doubt about it. And so, who did you admire growing up in comedy?
Oh, I would have to. Yeah, probably I would have to say.
And what influenced your style? I suppose who did?
I would say the two comics that other than Leno, who was like just a little bit older than me. I would have to say the guys that really influenced me were Rodney Dangerfield, for one, who was hysterically funny.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And Jack Benny. I really liked Jack Benny. He was on TV Johnny Carson too, of course. I mean, although he's more of people think of him more as a talk shows, but clearly the guy was really funny.
And what I know too is that these people that get the shows and whatnot, they end up going back out to the clubs.
Yeah. Well, you mean like a sitcom?
Yeah.
Well, you know what happens? You get a sitcom.
Yes.
And now you're on some network show. You can go back and work in the same club, but not for the same money. You will make a lot more money because you're on that sitcom.
Okay.
Because it's economics. It's pure. Well, I mean, some people. It's the other thing too.
Jay Leno. I always thought he was. They always said he's such a hard worker and always working, and when he's on hiatus, he's back in the.
Well, there's a big difference between being a comic and being a famous comic.
Okay.
And once you're famous, it's a whole different thing, and I'll give you an example of that. I was working at Nick's Comedy Stop, and it was a Sunday night. This is back in the late 80s, early 90s, and that was when that show St. Elsewhere was on TV, and Howie Mandel was on that show. And I guess he happened to be in town shooting something that they needed at the Boston backdrop, and he walked into Nick's Comedy Stop. And he wanted to go on stage and do a set. And he wasn't even that famous at that point, but he was on a TV show, and he walked on the stage and got a 4-minute applause break without even saying anything. That's the power of fame. I mean, the audience was, Howie Mandel, So if you're famous and you go out and every night you get that kind of reception, who wouldn't want to do that? Right. Versus going to Nunzio's, Brass Knuckle Lounge, and going,
which probably has its own fun, right? Yeah. It has its own fun to it.
So being famous is a different thing.
So tell me one of your greatest moments as a stand-up comic. What are one of the venues you worked and it was just like a great show for you? And
I'll tell you, well, a lot of them are good. A lot of them in really obscure places, actually. It's funny. It's like sometimes you go, one of the things, the thing that I really like about it, when you get that surprise where you walk in and you look at the room and you say, oh my, this isn't going to work. This is going to be, and then all of a sudden it's like a magical show. And that happened. In many times that's happened. I would have to say one of the oddest shows I've ever done was probably in about 1983, I guess it was, back in the 80s, whenever that movie Raging Bull came out. After that movie came out and won all the Academy Awards, Jake LaMotta started working the comedy circuit again. And just like Robert De Niro did in the film, shows him doing his act, that was Jake LaMotta's real act. And he was doing that act in the club, and it was, he was a nice guy, don't get me wrong, but the act was, as you're watching your act, you're thinking, wow, that Robert De Niro really is a great actor. Yeah. Look at how good he is. Wow, this guy's
really on.
Not that funny.
And any time where that a joke just went.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Usually like a new joke. Once you sort of figure out once you figure out how to do it, it's not that hard. Once you figure out how to write a joke. But
what if someone doesn't get the joke? It's a sensitivity, or you get someone screaming at you in the office,
somebody
audience that
takes offense at the joke?
Yes, the offensive part.
Oh, that's going to happen. Well, if you haven't offended somebody in the room, I think you're not doing your job. Hopefully you haven't offended all of them.
That's right.
But, I think Seinfeld is the one that says, at every show there's one, he says he's convinced that in every show, no matter how it goes, there's one person walking out of that show saying, that's the funniest show I've ever seen, and there's another person walking out saying, that's the worst show I've ever seen. So
you can't, right.
Somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the
truth,
middle.
I guess,
That's right. So now we come up to today, and you've done a lot of, you've kind of ventured outside of stand-up comedy. You're an actor, a playwright. Tell me a bit about some of the works you've written.
I've written plays and screenplays. Actually, I got somebody looking at a screenplay right now, and we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Cross those fingers,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely. A couple of plays. I wrote a play. I wrote a play that's set in a comedy club called At the Funny Factory. That's might be getting a stage reading taking place, but again, keep the fingers crossed and see. Yeah. It's had a couple of readings. Once here in Boston at Jimmy Tingle had this place called the off-Broadway theater over in Davis Square in Somerville. We did a reading there, and it got a great reception, but I've rewritten it, made it a little tighter, made it funnier, and we'll see what happens with that. And I'm going to adapt that into a screenplay too, into a film.
And the difference between the play and a screenplay, it's just how it's written?
Well, the format's definitely different.
Yes,
I mean, the scenes in a screenplay usually are like no more than 3 pages. And plays are obviously language driven. People get up on stage and then they just talk. Now, if you had to sit there and watch that in a movie, that would be a real yawn fest. You'd be asleep in no time.
And all of your experiences, of course, helped with that material,
well,
right?
That play was like a lot of fun to write because the characters are all composites of people I really knew. The situations, what it is, it's a backstage story. It's these comics waiting to do the premise of the stories. These comedians are waiting to do a regular Friday night show, and at the end of Act 1, they realize that there's this talent scout coming in from what I call the nighttime show, which is obviously supposed to be a big time talk show in the evening. Right. And so that changes the stakes, and then in the second act they actually do the show, but the whole play pretty much takes place backstage, because I always felt very often the funniest show was backstage with the comedians talking to each other and sort of acting up for one another, and whatever. So obviously with those circumstances, it sort of brings out the best and the worst of everybody.
Right, and will people know who their character
I think that would
is?
be kind of tough, actually, because
You've blended it a bit?
Well, yeah, and I say there's certainly a little bit of me in each one of those characters, so it's certainly a lot of me. But some of them, there's one character that's actually based on an actor. He's sort of a composite of an actor that I knew, a teacher I had, and a little bit of me. So I mean, it's like, so it'd be tough to really say, oh, that's so and so.
Right.
Although some people might think that, but they might recognize certain traits.
Right.
Yeah, totally
And
possible.
tell me about your film work. Now I have a nice picture here to show. Can everybody guess who this is? You'll know when you see when we zoom in on the face. But what film did you work on?
Oh, that was the film they shot here. You can see the public garden in the background. It's called The Maiden Heist.
Okay.
And I was on that film. I was actually working as a stand-in for Christopher Walken. And
all right.
When you're the stand-in, you have to stay in the shot for lighting, and you probably know this. And you can't leave until the principal actor gets there.
Yes.
So this shot was taken.
And that was with Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, it's like Dinner for Schmucks. He knows Morgan Freeman.
So how was that, long hours?
You can tell. Actually, if you look at that picture, you can
let's
see.
put this up again.
Look how happy I look in that photo.
Just
it was
check,
about 5 degrees that day.
Check
I
out.
was not happy.
And what
even with
time
Morgan.
of day was this?
Oh, that was about 7 o'clock in the morning on the public garden, and about 5-degree temperature.
Right,
It was
because
brutally
films
cold.
are long hours, correct?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that a short day on a film set is 12 hours. So everybody is working 12 and 15-hour days, and usually 6 days a week. So everybody's tired at the end of the movie.
Every scene that Christopher Walken has to be in to set the lighting and
well, yeah, I'm not. When they actually roll the cameras and film it,
right.
I step out and he actually steps in and does the. But they would block out the shot for camera movement. They would adjust the lights, and they basically, the way you get the job is they pick somebody who's sort of the same height, same complexion, and then whatever color his hair is in this particular movie, they color your hair that color, and then they go from there and you get to. But what was really great about that movie was the director. A lot of the movie, it's a heist movie, like the title says, and they do a lot of the movie on walkie-talkie. So very often there'd be days where Christopher Walken wasn't there, but Morgan Freeman and William H. Macy was also in the movie, and Marcia Gay Harden. Those people would be there. So the director, who's a British guy, said, "George, would you mind running lines with Morgan Freeman?" I go, "Oh, no, I think I can fit that into my schedule. Sure, okay."
Not a problem.
So I would be off camera running Christopher Walken's lines with Morgan Freeman. And for timing. So he's got the walkie-talkie. So just to keep the timing of it right when they do the film.
It's been a great experience.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was a lot. Then there was actually the funniest thing was one day I was in the van with running William H. Macy's lines with Christopher Walken and Morgan Freeman, and myself and the sound guy were crouched down in the back, and Christopher Walken was a trip. I got to tell you, he was so funny. There was a cat that Morgan Freeman's character has sitting on the dashboard, and Christopher Walken is like, I cannot believe this cat. Look at him. He's working like a dog. This cat. He was out there. He's such a funny guy.
And did you
great
get
actor.
to see
Yeah.
some of the filming?
Oh, yeah.
The actual, once they said, okay, we're ready to shoot,
Oh, yeah.
It's not hours after you've done that.
No,
'cause
usually
I know
what
it's
you do
hurry
is
up and wait.
you usually step out and they have a monitor and you can watch what they're shooting and whatever. And you have to, the minute they wrap with the principal actor and he steps out, they want you right back in there so they can set up the next shot. So it's a very time sensitive thing.
Right, right.
You know.
Well, along with the great work that you've done in performance, you're also doing great work at a place called Right Turn.
Well, yeah, it's a place that I go to. Yeah.
Okay, tell me about Right Turn.
That's a treatment center over in Arlington, and they work with a lot of people that are substance abuse problems, and they work with a lot of creative people, and that's something very near and dear to my heart. I've been a guy that's hasn't had a drink in almost 25 years.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So,
and what I liked about reading about Right Turn is that they want to lose the stigma that's attached with people who are in recovery or who are struggling. And I like how they have a creative component. They have shows during the weekends.
We do a lot of comedy shows because, like I say, it's geared for creative people. So you get a lot of actors, a lot of musicians. So they'll do music shows.
You usually don't put those two together, though. But you know,
show business and alcohol and drugs.
Well, the other side of it. The other side of it is the recovery side.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that they, like I saw on a Saturday night, they have like a $5, and anybody can go to these shows. Correct?
I'll tell you, they have great music over there. They have a blues jam, I think once a month. It's a great place to see a show too. We've done stand-up shows in there. It's about about 100, 120 seats. I think it fits totally if you really jam people in. Great place to see music. Great place to see music. Great place to see a comedy show. Yeah.
And I'm sure collaborate with other creative.
Oh, it's just a great venue to. I mean, they actually have they have some meetings there and what have you, and it's just a great place to network with people. You can do that, and you it's sort of you're with your tribe.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
And artists, graphic artists as well too. A lot of painters and a couple of sculptors.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah. So I ask every guest on the show for advice to someone out in our audience who is looking for creativity in their lives or has a dream to perform or paint, and they need that extra push. And you started out just going to comedy clubs, and then you found your niche. So give a little pep talk.
My advice would be get out of the business and move in with your parents. Let them worry about it. Let them pay the bills. No, I'm kidding. I would say, there's an old saying, if somebody can talk you out of it, you shouldn't be doing it. So I think really it's like just keep doing it. Really, you just got to keep showing up and banging away at it. Do the best you can, just keep showing up. I mean, showing up is like 90% of it. I think that's what Woody Allen said.
Yes. And in your best,
you can't do it from your living room.
In your best voice, in your best, actor, convince our audience to come on this show. I know there are creative people out there. I just know it.
Come and see Krystyne Cheever. Okay, we'll use this camera. Come and see Krystyne Cheever. Be on her show. Be all you can be, but do it here, please. Or join the Army. I don't know. Be all you can be. Isn't that their slogan?
Or be on the All Friends Cabaret, as he's saying.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Krystyne.
A great history of performance, and you're a talented guy.
Thanks.
And good luck with all that's ahead for you.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
So anyway, I encourage you, get a hold of me, contact me to be a part of the next All Friends Cabaret, and we'll see you next time right here on the All Friends Cabaret. Good night, everybody.